Greetings and welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. I'm Phyllis Hollis, your host. As an extension of my Instagram page, Cerebral Women, this podcast offers insights into the visual art world. I interview artists, mainly artists of color and female artists who will freely articulate what inspires their creativity. In addition, you'll hear interesting perspectives from dedicated art professionals who work with artists and the art institutions that feature them. I'm confident that collectively, these individuals will indeed stimulate your mind as they do our eyes. Please know these interviews are conducted in my Manhattan apartment, so please forgive the background sounds of city life. Welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. This episode features Debra Cartwright, an artist interested in depicting the relationship between the Black female body and American medical history. She uses paint and mixed media to explore selfhood and her own positioning as the daughter of a gynecologist. Themes around her work include re-embodiment, myth creation, violence, theft, and intimacy. She explores a critical understanding of the past while also proposing an examination of the present American healthcare system. Her solo exhibitions include 2024 Freeze LA with Brooklyn-based Wellencora Gallery, AACC Founders Fellow Exhibition at the Montclair Art Museum in New Jersey, and 2023 Phantasmic Figures, Bode Projects, Berlin, Germany. Select group exhibitions include 2024 The Sum of Our Parts, Swivel Gallery in New York, Snowdrops at Friedman Gallery, New York, and Fellowship Exhibition, Montclair Art Museum in New Jersey. Group shows in 2023 include Untitled Art Fair, Miami, with Friedman Gallery, the AXA Art Prize at the New York Academy of Art, Take Home a Nude, Sotheby's, New York, Expo Chicago 2023, to name a few. Debra has her MFA from Rutgers University Mason Gross School of the Arts in New Jersey, an AA in Communication Design from Parsons School of Design, and a BA in Art History from the University of Virginia. Enjoy this episode featuring Debra Cartwright. Debra, welcome to my Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. I'm looking forward to featuring you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to have this conversation.
When did you discover your artistic passion?
I was always drawing as a kid, or making clothes, or writing plays, and making my friends act in those plays. I do remember my mother putting me into an adult watercolor class when I was about 8 years old, and I was the only kid, and I loved it, and I painted a lot of fruit. That was my earliest memory of painting.
How do you define your practice?
I'm a painter, and I use all types of mediums to paint. And it took me a while to say I'm a painter, so I really, really like to enforce that now. I went through the whole art school thing of existential crisis, where I was like, do I want to be a painter? Do I want to make objects for the capitalist machine kind of thing? And I really, really struggled with it until my sister sat me down and she's like, how about you go paint? Like, just paint. You like painting. So how about you do that? And that since then I define myself as a painter, and I'm very proud of that. That's my definition. Yeah.
Let's talk about your work. Did you ever consider abstraction? I know your word leans towards figurative, right?
Yes.
How do you define it? Yeah. How would you categorize it?
I guess it's an amalgamation between figurative, abstraction, and landscape. And I'm constantly trying to blur the lines between all three. And as I do that, it gets increasingly abstract. So I feel like that's a journey that I'm taking a long time to get to. And I feel like I have a while. So it's always a challenge when I step into the studio.
And what materials do you use?
I use watercolor, collage. I worked in magazines for 10 years. So I had a lot of magazines, and not so much anymore since I've cut them all up. And now I'm, foraging magazines from my friends, and sometimes thread. I used to sew a lot of clothes, so I'm trying to get back into that. And oil. oil on canvas.
What role does drawing play in your work?
I don't feel like I draw in the traditional sense enough. As I said, I started watercolor painting since I was 8, and I don't think I ever stopped. I kind of draw with a watercolor brush. It's very second nature for me to get my ideas out via that medium. It's just so smooth and direct. And yeah, that's how I do my drawings.
Has your technique developed or changed a lot over the years?
I was a commercial illustrator for several years. And the reason I have a following on Instagram at all is because of this. I used to make a lot of illustrations of Black women for my friends to build community. And then I started getting commercial gigs for these illustrations and just quit my design job and was exclusively working for companies like HBO and McDonald's and all of these gigs. But I got really frustrated with illustration because sometimes I would get pretty racist feedback. And I was like, there's got to be a way for me to paint, draw, whatever I want, and to get the messages out that I want to have. Luckily, years ago, I got a pretty big illustration commission that funded me to take a year off, really. And I focused on creating a portfolio for school. And I started with oil painting because I was teaching myself oil painting. I also studied with Jazz Knight, who's an oil painter. And that was before even applying to grad school. And I just created these large scale figurative works because that's what I was comfortable with, and focused on technique for a year, and then applied to grad schools. And then at grad school, just explored absolutely everything. So yeah, I think I'm constantly learning and constantly taking in references and seeing what I can create.
How do you feel your art professors impacted your work and your practice?
I never really got along with authority or professors or teachers. I always wanted to do my own thing until grad school. And that's my third degree. So this is, I went through a lot of teachers. So I'm sorry to them for being so rebellious. But once I got to grad school, for my MFA, I was just a sponge, and Rutgers program was the most encouraging space I'd ever been in. And my professors were brilliant. I had Didier Williams, Mark Handelman, Stephen Westfall, and Heather Hart were the professors that just fed so much information to me, and were very critical of my work as well. So, and also John Yao, he was amazing. So their critique, them stressing me out, I grew so much during that program. So yeah, they definitely pushed me to think about my practice, my why, my influences, my story, all of these things that I'd never considered until studying under them.
As a youngster, can you recall if you were influenced by a particular body of work, painting, an artist?
Yes. Well, I loved Van Gogh as a kid. And I remember that was my first art book that my mom bought me. I was enthralled by the story of him cutting his ear off, I think. Very strange child. And then Ellsworth Kelly, I thought it was the abstract expressionist movement, I thought was so bold to not get away with, but be like, this is important. This shape is important. This color is important. And I need you to look at it. And I need you to be immersed in it. And I thought that was just such a radical departure from the things I was taught were the most important. Like Barnett Newman, I remember loving very, very young. I grew up in Maryland, so going to the museums around DC, definitely abstract expressionist artists. After Van Gogh, of course.
When do you know work is finished?
I don't. I have slashed up paintings in my studio. I think I get very physical in creating them. And then when it's gone too far, I've overworked too many paintings. I know when something's overworked, I will say that. I think deadlines are really good for me because I'm like, okay, got to finish this, then got to leave it alone. I love that. I don't know when things are finished. I feel like it's a luck of the draw at this point. I'm like, this has to be done. So here it is. Maybe I was trained that way in corporate.
When do you decide on the title?
After it's done, I read a lot of theory and I take notes throughout my readings. So straight out of grad school, I'm only a year out of grad school. So Christina Sharp, Sadia Hartman, Audre Lorde, I've highlighted and taken notes, and I pull a title out of the most recent notes I've taken. And I feel like it's a bookmark of my research. The titles are for me. Titles are like, oh, you were reading that then.
Is that how you keep learning?
Yes, definitely. I keep learning because I am constantly reading and bothering my friends who are brilliant about what they're reading and what they're talking about and their eyes. I have a lot of friends in creative industries. So we go to shows, we go to events, we go to talks, have a great community.
What's your process of choosing color?
I learned oil painting under Jazz Knight, who is an oil painter in Brooklyn. And he's very much into classical approach like Jericho. And he started me off with 4 colors and said, this is all you need to create anything. And at the time I was creating figurative work. So I completely agree. And I'm teaching now and I tell my students the same thing. So we were starting with burnt sienna, ultramarine, cadmium yellow, cadmium red, or vermilion. And just mixing and seeing what comes out of those. I use the same colors within watercolor. I feel like I've stayed pretty loyal to that palette because at the moment I'm trying to see what I can do with texture and composition. And I like to have that constant. Possibly I'll break out into something different. But right now I'm pretty comfortable with this exploration.
Are your memories reflected in your work?
Yes. So I started my thesis thinking about my first drawing memories, which were in my mother's office waiting for her to finish. She's a gynecologist. And she had all of these notepads and diagrams that had pelvic exams and uteruses and fallopian tubes and all of these kind of things. And I would trace them and redraw them and make little faces out of them as a child. And so thinking about where I wanted to take my practice, I took it all the way back to those memories. And I still come from that space of, okay, waiting for mom, what are we creating in this space where we have no distractions? And yeah, so I wanted to incorporate that childlike approach and freedom into my work. And so that's the memory. But my practice is also about the maternal line, the things our grandmothers and mothers went through in this country that they don't speak about. So, and like lost childhoods in the Black community, and specifically to me, the Southern Black stories that can't be told due to trauma. So I'm working them out through reading historical artifacts, reading theory, and painting.
When you're working, creating, do you think about who your audience is?
Yes, I do, but my audience is me. So I don't know how to take that. I don't know how to really answer that. I am creating to work out questions I have about lineage and where and identity and kind of the mystery of the American Black woman experience. So I think it relates to a lot of people. I am thinking about them because I'm thinking about all of us collectively, but I'm a part of that as well. So I'm thinking about community more than I think about audience when I'm creating. Yeah. I find my practice is very healing for me because I get to talk about things that I've wanted to talk about my entire life, and I never really found an audience until I got into art. So it's kind of drawn a community toward me that is kind of seduced by the work, and then we get to discuss things that I want to discuss, which is what I've put out in my work. So yeah, I create for a community.
And do you think the audience understands the work?
I don't know. I think they do. I think that they are first curious about the work. And I think curiosity is the first step to understanding. So that's all I can ask.
Do you feel Black art can be defined?
I think if you're Black and you make art, it's Black art. And I know you've gotten that answer a lot because I've listened to the podcast. And I understand that's controversial historically. I've read 1971. But I think all Black art is necessary to be called Black art because it shows the range of the Black experience.
Share with us, what are you excited about right now?
What am I excited about right now? I am excited to continue teaching. I'm teaching painting again. And I'm heading to a residency. I have a show in the Bahamas, which is where my father's family's from. So I'm very excited to go down there and have my family come to their first show of mine. And then I have a show in Brooklyn later in the year. So I'm very excited about the rest of the year.
Do you listen to music while you're working?
I do listen to music. I listen to experimental jazz. I listen to 80s music. I love the Gap Band. I love Parliament Funkadelic. I listen to 90s workout music. I like Crystal Waters, Salt and Pepper, and In Vogue. And then I listen to a lot of astrology podcasts because I'm real woo-woo.
So since you've left corporate, what have been the most substantial challenges that you've encountered as an artist?
Oh my goodness. Building community, being around people. I am a people person. That's what took me so long to be like, I'm going to be an artist because I love being around people all day. And it scared me to be in a space by myself creating all day. And that is still a challenge for me. I try to talk on the phone with friends or family while I'm working and visit my friends in their other studios and make dates after work to go see after the studio to go see shows together. That's been the hardest part for me. I'm a people person.
What do you feel is the purpose of art?
What do I feel is the purpose of art? Communication. I feel like art is a snapshot in time. It's one understanding of the past as it connects with the present. And I think it's a guideline or maybe a journal entry for people in the future. I think art communicates whenever we as humans fall short. When we think we can't connect, we think there's a barrier, and maybe that barrier is age or era or language, culture, race, anything. It bridges us.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a great conversation. And this is going to be our last question. And that is, as an artist, what do you feel your role is today in the world we live in?
I feel my role is to tell my story, to contribute my story to the best of my ability, to tell how I feel, to express what's important to me, showing my ancestry, showing my history, encouraging others to do the same. That's it.
I'm grateful for the work that you do that focuses on women's issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. For additional content, please visit cerebralwomen.com and be sure to follow Cerebral Women on Instagram.